Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff. I'm just sitting down to do some hobby again. It's been a little while. Thought it'd be nice to hop back on the stream. So, as before, don't really have a whole lot of content. This is a hobby hangout, make that very clear. We're just sitting and painting. But I am going to pull up a whole bunch of questions that I was sent for Why Reforging, because in between the last one and this one, I got sent a whole bunch. So, I'll go through those, and then I'll also talk about some cool stuff going on with hobby and junk. So if anyone has any questions or like wants to just hang out and chat, I'd love to join me. I'm going to point the camera down. Give me 1 second here. Boop. And let's see. Okay. Looks like things are working. It is Lion. Heyo. Hi there. Can you hear and see everything okay? I just want to do a quick check. Been having some weird issues with the internet lately. But, yeah, I think everything's working good. Say you're painting some Genestealer Cultists. It is the right time for that, my friend. I'll tell you that. For me, I am painting some Zengor Enlightened and Skyfires. Everyone on discs. Sweet. Okay, you can hear it to me. Awesome. So, are you just getting into Genestealer Cult, or did you have them for a while and you're just now painting them? Because I had them before. Probably like right when, what is it? Right when 8th came out, I had a bunch of Genestealer Cults. I got in a trade because they army trade a lot between AOS and 40k, and you know, like I love the models, but there's so much detail on them. It was driving me insane to paint them to a good level. Had them for a good while. That's good. Glad you like them. I actually just went out yesterday and started priming up my Space Wolves. I'm doing an all Primaris Space Wolf thing for 2019. My goal is to have an army where everything is painted to the highest standard I do. So most stuff is not, but like in terms of the stuff I paint, usually I focus on heroes and then horde troops I bang out like in large quantities. But yeah, so I'm doing Primaris because there's fewer dudes and each one of them is going to have like scars and battle damage, and just I'm gonna paint them individually. I'll batch prime them because there's no reason not to, but as far as the actual painting goes, I love painting details. Tend to spend too much time on a single neophyte. Yeah, that was my thing. For my typical paint style, I'll say that typically like I said, put a lot of work into heroes, and then everyone else I like breeze through, but those models have so much detail, I didn't feel like I could breeze through them very easily. I feel the same way about, my gosh, what are they called? Like, Fire Slayers. I don't know why that was so hard for me to remember, but like all the ornate detail and the trim and that kind of stuff, there's just a lot going on there. I did paint up like 40 of them at one point, but yeah. Mike Atwood dies make 2 live shows in a row. You did. Yeah, anytime I'm just sitting at the computer, I try, if my voice is okay and I'm feeling all right, to throw on the camera and just sit and chat with people because I like being accessible. So I had 2 times this weekend. I was only able to get 1 video made so far for the week because I wasn't feeling well, honestly, this weekend. But it'll go up tomorrow morning, and then the rest of the week I'll record some more at some point. Everyone's getting ill around me because it's that time of the year. Let's see here. Question. Random, but what do you think Sylvaneth would look like in the Realm of Light? Ooh. I don't know. I get a lot of questions for like the Realm of Light and Realm of Shadows, and I struggle to picture it, honestly, because we haven't gotten a lot of art and stuff like that. Like, because when they talk about light, they always focus on like what's the word I'm looking for, when something is the same on both sides. I don't know, very, very bright. Yeah, you could do very bright, but also symmetrical. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, those kinds of words are described. So I don't know. There's not a lot of just good descriptions, and certainly no good art right now. Why am I painting Tzeentch stuff, Corey? Because Tzeentch things are part of Beasts of Chaos. They are creatures that have been warped by the wilds. So originally, well, it's still the plan, but at some point I'm going to go out and buy Bulgors, like the Minotaurs like that. The problem is that no one has them in stock here, and I kind of needed to get some units with teeth to them to actually honestly be able to play the army. I have a video coming up tomorrow kind of explaining my collection, but right now I have just a lot of stuff that's like chaff, but nothing that can actually pull an enemy off an objective. And so it's a little, admittedly, a little rough to game with them without something else. And so this was the, actually I'm going to pause on that. This was the something else. Something to get in there at the enemy and tear him apart. While I have, so these will be supported by 40 Gore, 30 Besta Gore, some Ungore, you know, all the cool stuff that, like, I shouldn't say cool stuff, these are cool, but I mean other things of Beasts of Chaos that are more traditional. But yeah, so eventually I do want to move away from the Tzeentch stuff. Just GW's been really bad about keeping some of the beast stuff in stock, like Dragon Ogres have been out of stock forever, and then Bulgors, Doom Bull. So I'm kind of just, I got what I needed to start playing, I feel like, and now I'm just going to expand from there. What I'm excited for is actually doing the Khorne battalion. That actually shows up quite a bit, where it gives you the Khorne keyword, and you can take it into Khorne army, so you can have like a Bloodsecrator and get those heavy axes of the Bulgor swinging and rerolling ones to hit, which is their big weakness, is hit modifiers. So yeah. Take over Mars. Hey Doug. Hello. You're just chilling and painting. I just booted this up, and in a second, once I get this disc done, I will hop into some questions that was sent through the email service. If you have a question for me, you can obviously let's see here. If you have a question for me, you can always send it in to the link down below. Obviously, you're chatting with me, so just throw it in the chat. I just don't want to miss it. Corey asked, Beasts of Khorne can be Khorne. Yes. So how it works for Beasts of Chaos, they are, most of them are without a mark, meaning no mark of Tzeentch, Slaanesh, whatever. They're kind of Chaos Undivided. Tzeentch are an exception. Any Tzeentch thing comes with the mark of Tzeentch, but they're all kind of built into the same faction. For anything that doesn't have a mark, meaning these guys, Tzeentch stuff, you can take one of 4 battalions in the Beasts of Chaos book, and those battalions give you a mark. So if you take these XYZ units, you get the mark of Khorne. Well, that can then be taken in a Khorne army. Same thing applies for Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle. So you can do a lot of things. So basically, once I do get the Bulgor, I plan on basically shelving these guys for a little while, and then focusing on taking a list and building it for each of the Chaos Gods, having a Slaanesh focused one, which would be amazing. And yeah, so they all have different strengths and weaknesses. I think the Khorne one definitely fills in the weaknesses of Beasts of Chaos probably the best, which is to say the Bloodsecrator gives you immunity Battle Shock. Battle Shock is the biggest weakness of this army, in my opinion. That's an opinion thing. And then the other part that they do is the battalion itself gives you reroll ones to hit. And since, like, the vast unending majority of this army hits on 4s, a reroll to 1 actually is meaningful and helps. Corey, I had no idea. Yeah, you absolutely can. So the way it works, if you have a Khorne army, I'm assuming that's what you mean. If you have a Khorne army, you just need to get the stuff to make the Beasts of Chaos Khorne battalion, and then you can bring that in. So you remember, you have to fill up that battalion, not fill it up, but at least meet the minimum requirements of it, which I think is 1 to 4 heroes. So any Beast of Chaos hero that's not a wizard is kind of the thing. So a Beast Lord or a Doom Bull, I think, are your only 2 options, because Khorne hates wizards. And they don't let you use Ungore. You have to use Gore as the cheapest thing you can use if you're looking for cheap bodies. But Best of Gore are allowed. Doom Bulls. Basically, the Khorne battalion is everything in the Beast of Chaos book that doesn't have a mark, meaning those Tzeentch stuff. Isn't a wizard, so it eliminates some of the heroes. And then nothing too cheap. So, for example, like Ungor would kind of break Khorne because they'd be so stinking cheap for blood type points. Yeah. But it's something definitely worth looking at. I'm going to go Beast of Chaos heavy. Well, in terms of units with a Khorne allegiance ability, and then bring in a Blood Secretor and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm excited about it. All right, hopping over some questions here while those things dry. Actually, while it's drying, let me get my paints out ready for the next one. Let's see. This one comes in from... There's no name. Do you think Stormcast will have a little bit too... Okay, so English is a little bit off here. Do I think Stormcast get too many releases compared to the rest of the factions? That's my paraphrase of this. I'm torn. On one hand, it's easy to see, yes, that they do get more releases regularly, I would say. I think it's important for GW to kind of like pick an aesthetic and really drive that home, to drive inspiration home. And I think that's what they chose to do with Space Marines, and of course, obviously with Stormcast. I'm going to just put that paint I just had. Here we go. The reason it doesn't bother me is because Stormcast release, I feel like, are not nearly as obnoxious as like Primaris Lieutenants for 40k, where if you look to your left and look to your right, you've just gained 4 more Primaris Lieutenants. And the reason I say that is because I feel like most Stormcast stuff, if you look at really how it's released, it's kind of spread up. It's almost annual, if you think about it. Annual-ish. First year we had that big first wave, and then we had the Dragon stuff, and then we had the Vanguard, and then we have the Sacrosanct. But those are like pretty nicely contained big releases, and I'm okay with the big releases because every faction gets those. It's just that Stormcast, they keep coming back to do that again and again and again. All I have to say, I don't have a problem with it. They need to develop kind of their IP of that stuff, and certainly because of the new faction, I mean, relative to a lot of things, yeah, I get it. What I don't like is that when a faction gets a book, the history up to this point has been that they never get anything else. They're forgotten to eons long ago. But that's changing now because we have, Genestealer Cults for 40k shows us that the company is then going back and reimagining things, where they had a big release, all new model ranges, and now, I think like 2-3 years later, they're doing it again. For Flesh Eater Courts, they're getting a new hero. The Skaven are getting a new Bombardier dude. So I want them in 2019 to just kind of, they don't need to stop focusing on Stormcast, but I want them to include focusing on other things as well. So yeah. Hop back at the chat. Let's see here. Hey Doug, building up my first 1,000 points. Beast of Chaos, mostly Zangor focus with some Ungor sacrificing and a Gargant. Nice. Hope to see your Tzeentch theme stuff in a bad rep soon. Yeah, that's the whole goal. I'm kind of speeding through these dudes because I need to get a 2,000 point list painted, because I want to be on rerolling ones, and I want to show my own stuff on my own channel. So that is the plan. That's why I kind of have been doing quite a few of these hobby hangouts lately, is just I want to move on. I've decided that I'm not really painting anything else until I get a fully painted playable army for these guys, which is good, but it's also a lot of models because they just have so many. Use a different brush. So many dudes. It gets a little daunting, but I'm excited that you're using mostly Zangor stuff. I mean, that's really cool. I love the versatility therein. I was chatting with someone, and we were amazed because it kind of occurred to us, like, Zangor stuff has really become. It used to be like, oh, if you want to get the best bang for your buck, play demons, because then you can play AOS or fantasy back in the day, and also 40k. But anymore, it's like Oh man, Zangors are where it's at. You get 2 armies in AOS. They still work in 40k because they work in Thousand Suns. And oh, it's just so good. Let's see. Mars, I've been having a heck of a time trying to sell my 1,000 Suns to buy 3,000 points of worth of Dark Elves. I get a lot of interest, but no one buys. Is that a common thing? It depends. So it depends on what you have for 1,000 Suns. If it's mostly like the Bolter Marines or whatever, that's not too uncommon, unfortunately. They're just so elite. The thing is, honestly, I think most people are afraid of painting them. I was listening to The Independent Characters, which is a 40k podcast by Carl Tuttle, who is an awesome guy. He's the one who put together the California fire relief thing that I helped try and promote. And I sent my orcs into. But anyway, the point is, he was doing a show about his 1,000 Suns. It's one of his armies. And he mentioned that it actually wound up being cheaper as an army than he expected, because he would look online and someone would have bought 3 boxes, built 2, painted one of those, and then the other one was still in the box and it was up for sale because they realized how hard it was to paint the trim and they didn't want to put the time in. And so like he's like, oh, this is weird because there's just a lot of very consistent eBay deals. Point is, it depends on what people are looking for when they look at your lot. I'm not interested in 1,000 Suns per se, but I would be interested in Zangor stuff. But yeah, that's one of those like funny trends you don't always think about. You know, you don't, because you're not being the buyer in that scenario, so it's fun. It's easy to miss the buying habits and things like that. Let's see here. Hello from Portland, Oregon. Hello. I am not far from you whatsoever. We should get gaming sometime. If I'm ever able to go to one of those, what do they call them? I can't remember the name of the group that puts on events like in Tacoma. Sometimes people from Oregon come up. I'll make a big deal out of it that I'm going to something like that. Eventually, I do want to actually go down to Portland. We actually have never been. Lived in Seattle for about 3 years now-ish, and just never had a reason to, if I'm honest with you. It just seems like there's always something to do around here. Okay. Interesting you say the video stream's stuttering, because it seems to be working. It's the one of the... having a lot of weird stuff with my streaming rig lately. Let me see. Turn my phone off. My friends are blowing me up. Okay. Hi, Doug. How you doing? I'm doing well. Just settling down for some... let's see here. Painting of some Zangor stuff. Okay, there's one guy. Have you thought about doing a spotlight on people's work, like their painting or anything like that? I feel like that's what Instagram is, but I mean, maybe. My thing is, if I open that, I open a floodgate and I get slammed with a bajillion requests, and I have to do it in a way that is meaningful to people who, like, you know, at this point, if people want to go look at cool playing models, they have Instagram. So it's a matter of like I did it once where a guy, he was extremely thankful for a video that I did for him, and so he sent me a bunch of pictures of his Iron Jaws, and so I put those up during I think the Gore lore video, and that's the most I've ever done. Part of it, I mean, and I don't mean to degrade anything. Part of it is I just don't focus on painting as a channel. Now, if it was like super conversions made to like fit a story, I think that would be really, really cool. I've actually thought about doing that as far as like a spotlight of not so much look what this artist did, because some of it just seems so unattainable. It's disgusting. But I mean, like, hey, this is a cool story that someone is telling in this universe, and look how they brought it to life, and maybe that can inspire other people. That'd be something I would be interested in. Let's see here. What do you think about the strengths of Tzeentch in Beast of Chaos? Should Zangors be nerfed, or do you think other units need a buff to bring them in line. So the problem is, we talk about Tzeentch. I think Tzeentch themselves are perfectly great. I think the question becomes Tzeentch Enlightened and Skyfires. I think that is the truth of it. So Tzeentchs, the basic unit dude, have actually, they got toned down quite a bit in their current incarnation. It used to be for every 9 models you got an additional attack. Now it's just if you have more than 9, you get an additional attack, which is very different when you're talking about building mobs of these guys, because people used to get a ridiculous amount of bonus attacks. So they definitely toned them down, for sure. As far as the Skyfires, I think, like I said, I think that's really the crux of it. Skyfires got reeled in too. Now it's only on an unmodified roll of a 6 that they do the mortal wounds, which is great, in line with their design focus right now. The thing about Enlightened is they didn't change except for their point cost. So they're just as good, functionally, as they were before, but they are now 140 points. Now the reason that's important is because Bulgor, the old Minotaur models, which I did want to get instead of these, but these are what is available. Those guys are 160, and that's a problem. It's a problem because there's nothing that an Enlightened... So there's nothing that a Bulgor can do at 160 that an Enlightened can't do better at 140. And I think that's the issue. And of course, you're talking to someone who takes things just because I like them. But even then, part of it is like, it's really rough. It's rough. I honestly think if someone had told me that there was a printing error and we actually meant to reverse those points, that Bulgor 140, Enlightened 160, I would have been like, that makes perfect sense. But as is, that's kind of where they're at. So I think Enlightened are truly what the problem is right now. I think they're probably going to get a price increase. As far as like fixing things, I think Bulgor just need to come down. That would be honestly my preferred thing, is if Bulgor came down. Yeah, because here, the truth of the matter is, honestly, they wouldn't be bad at 120. And by bad, I mean like too good, because they have 8-inch speed, but they can't run and charge like Bestigor. Bestigor are 120. There's 10 dudes. They can lay the hurt. They get 3 attacks each on the charge. Bulgor get 3 attacks base, but they don't get any more bonuses. Like, I think they're just mathematically pretty similar to Bestigor in terms of staying alive, getting across the table. They're not as fast. They got some debuffs. I don't know. So I think they could go much cheaper and still be really good and not broken. The question is when you start taking those things into other factions, like, is 120 point Bulgor too good if it's a Tzeentch or if it's a Khorne army one? That's where things get complicated. Anyway, that was a long rant to say. I guess your question was kind of open-ended. I can kind of take it wherever I wanted to, but yeah, I think for the most part, when it comes to Tzeentch stuff, most of it's fine except for the Enlightened, who I think it's not just them that's the problem. It's a two-pronged thing of Enlightened being really good and Bulgor, who are kind of their closest counterpart in terms of the traditional Beastman stuff, being exceptionally expensive for what they're trying to do. They're both trying to do the same thing, be the hammer. So yeah. Scott Long, saw your last bat rep on rerolling ones. Army's looking good. Oh, thank you so much. I'm actually really embarrassed about that one, and I promised I would never be on their channel again until I got good at my army. I just made a lot of rules mistakes. It's a new faction to me, and they understand. But I was a little disappointed in myself. After we were chatting, I was just like, I was so busy focused on... that's actually when I made the video for the Remember Me list, because I was like really upset about how I performed, and so I was like, how can I do better? And that's when I shared it with everyone else, which weirdly turned out to be one of early popular video. I'm excited about that. But thank you. Yes, the color scheme's coming along to reply to your statement. It's pretty simple. It's just mostly Rakarth Flesh, and then Meridius Blue for, which is a P3 paint. Meridius Blue for that teal color, and I think some of the Thousand Sun paints for 40k, or GW paints that were made for Thousand Suns, work just as well. So let's hop over to another while you're reforging question here. Question from Gardas Steel Soul II. Hey Doug, love Stormcast and really everything you produce. Oh, thank you. On the topic of Stormcast Eternals, how do you think I should go about doing things with my army narrative-wise? Well, I had a Stormcast army and I started it, and I just literally read a book and then made that army as best I could. The book I read was... Actually, it was the first Realmgate War book when Gardas Steel Soul himself came down and was fighting off Plague Bears left and right like a boss, and so that was a lot of Judicators and Liberators and any other kind of aider that Stormcast has. That's what I do. I mean, just find a story that sounds cool and go with it. Also, the what is it? Battletomes often have, like, you know, when these kinds of Stormcasts get together, they call it a, you know, handlebar mustache formation, and that's what you do. And so you kind of build a story based on like whatever the book gives you. That's what I would suggest. Read your Battletome, whatever sounds cool, go for it. Or another way you can go, actually, is kind of thought of this, is a lot of times they'll make special formations for a particular mission, and you could build an army like that focuses on blank, maybe hunting monsters, right? And this is from Astral Templars, and they're hunting the big beast. So you just kind of build up in your lore what they're hunting, where they're hunting it, and build an army around that. That's actually, I've mentioned it a couple times now, but at some point I do plan on doing a Astral Templars army hunting party that focuses mainly on Vanguard Chamber, Vanguard Wing, whatever it is. Just in getting the heads from Forge World that they just put out, because those look savage and awesome. I do wish some of the female heads had more battle damage. Like, there's no lady with an eye patch kind of thing. I guess I didn't see one. I think that would be really cool. But I like the male ones have lots of scars, and that's super legit. Mogwai Man, reading battalion, and was it picking a War Scroll battalion? That's honestly what I choose. That's what I was talking about. Like, a lot of times they'll describe things in the Battletome in story format as the battalion. So, trying to think of an example. Beasts of Chaos don't actually have a lot of those. Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, they talk about how certain Beast Lords will be tempted by the Dark Gods, and hey, if one were to fall to Khorne, they call it, I can't remember the name of it, but you get the idea. And then they have that battalion. Yeah, that's how you build the story. Yeah, so you got it. Chief, hey Doug, hope you're doing well, mate. Question, is it me, or do a lot of Night Haunt paint jobs not look as polished as some of the factions I've seen? I assume you're talking about like the ethereal effect. For that, I will be super honest and say that I used to be snobby about people just doing ethereal effects. There was like a month period where everyone just like dunked their models in wash and was like, look, it's a ghost anything, literally a ghost anything, you know what I mean? And so I was like, I'm getting kind of tired of seeing this. And then I kind of snapped at it. I was like, you know what, these people are happy, and they're painted models. It's better than gray plastic. I'm happy for them. That is my current conclusion. As far as polishing, I tend to agree, but it's kind of the same thing as like, it's one of those factions that I think is a great starter for a new painter, because distinguishing we'll say a new painter, right, a newbie to paintings Night Haunt to a professional's Night Haunt is not, there's not as much of a difference as there is with some other stuff. Like my Zangor stuff looks terrible compared to like a heavy metal painter. But honestly, looking at the heavy metal stuff that they have in the battletome for Nighthaunt, they don't look vastly different from stuff that I see at the normal game store. And that is both a testament to their design and their new paints they put out and the the methods they teach you. And part of it also is just the fact it's kind of like Necrons have the same thing in 40k where they're so simple. You almost have to work harder to make them really stand out. And that's not a thing that every faction has. I don't know what... I'm sure there's some artists who can put that into more better English. But, you know what I mean? Like, I was actually planning, okay, what army am I going to paint for 2019, my highest level standard? I want it to be a 40k thing so I can take a break from AOS. Give my mind a break and paint some different kind of stuff. So it's a 40k army, and I had Necron stuff in hand. I'm like, well, why don't I just paint Necrons? And then I was looking at the paint schemes. I'm like, what does a hero painted Necron look like? I don't know. The adequate ones and the amazing ones don't look vastly different. It's more about how you put the paints together. I don't know. I see what you're saying. I think the things that make a really good looking Nighthaunt army, the people who go the extra mile, are things like rust on the weapons. I think that's fantastic. And that's really easy to do. Basing goes a long way. I don't know. I think there's ways to go. I mean, part of the thing is it's an army that appeals to people because it's so easy. And that's 100% a fantastic thing. I can't emphasize that enough. That if people are starting to game because they feel like it's not as scary or hard to do, that's a win. Let's see here. Oh, I fell behind just a little bit here. Do you think Wanderer's lore will ever get fleshed out in some far distant future? And if so, how do you think or want them to continue their story? Well, do I think they'll ever come out? Yes. Yes, I think that will be fleshed out. They've been mentioned enough in enough books at this point. Battletomes and junk like that about being, abandoning the Sylvaneth and the Lariel and their time of need and that kind of stuff. Like, there's definitely some tension there. That's awesome. As far as what I want them to be, I don't know. Probably focus a lot. I was gonna say, like, they could be the Order faction that really focuses on movement. Like, if they had something, frankly, similar to Beasts of Chaos, that would be new and unique to Order. Or, like, they can come off from the board edge, like, these guys can do ambush. They could, like, know the realms and the hidden passages and come that way. That'd be kind of cool. As far as, like, their story arc, I don't really know. We only know bits and pieces. They can really do whatever they wanted to do. We know that when things got nasty, they split, and then Alariel nuked all the memories of the Sylvaneth, and it was a big old thing, but yeah. Let's see. The wrists on these guys are always the hardest to reach. Let's see. Like when people do Moonclan, all black, none of the fun little details like checkers, dags, or flames. Yeah, here's the thing, though, between Nighthaunt and Moonclan, though, is that with Moonclan, part of the visual immensity of the whole thing is how many dudes there are, and that's a fine, like, I understand having to paint just the bare minimum stuff to keep your sanity. But with Nighthaunt, there's fewer models, typically, and so skipping those things, I feel like, tends to stick out more. Yeah, skipping little details. But I see what you mean. Like, an all-black Moonclan army, it's just a sea of black, because there's so many dudes. But, if they paint the skin, get it all done, that's awesome. My days of paint snobbery are behind me. The nice thing about a lot of these questions, though, is that, like, about the paint schemes, is that you can always paint them to a base, like get them all the black, get the skin done, and then come back and do like the checkers, stuff like that. Because there's not a lot of cracks and crevices on your basic Moonclan dude. It's all like very surface area. You can just crank in there and get it all done. Do you think the Squig, Rider, Stampede, and Squiglanch War Scroll battalions are a good army setup? I honestly have not looked at the rules of the book in their entirety, so give me some time to think about that one. I mean, as far as like, it's a lot of fast-moving aggression. That sounds awesome. There's not many battle tomes that have one of those things and they don't get played well. Brass Stampede for Khorne is another great one. Just a bunch of dudes bolting at you as fast as they can. Just a minute to mix these up and I'll hop back in there. Okay. I'm wondering if Gutbusters is going to be the next faction to receive a legacy status. Legacy status, I'm not sure what that means. They're not going to delete the product line. They would have done that many, many moons ago. But do you mean like a reboot of an older rule set? Then I don't know, why not? Question, never tried wet palettes. They are amazing. I did once and it was terrible, but I'm being told lately that it's because the paper that comes with the wet palette is terrible and that you should use parchment paper or something like that. I'm not sure if that's right, but so I might give it a second try. It was honestly, it was so annoying. It didn't keep anything wet and it was bulky and in my way, and I got frustrated and then tossed it when I moved. But everyone asks. Chad, regarding Wanderers, I like to see them as redeeming themselves in the eyes of Alariel. Maybe they have some connection with Kurnoth. Yeah, I think that would be a great... they've mentioned Kurnoth a few times, and I've mentioned in my videos, like, I wish they had done more with him, and that might be a great segue to do that. A great, entry point to that as far as yeah. Darkoath is so lame. I want my angry chaos Vikings in heavy plate, not jungle men and tidy whiteys. I don't know, man. If you haven't read that War Queen book, when they fight, they're scary. What I'm kind of assuming is happening is that they're getting rid of all of the Marauder line of stuff, like the actual Chaos Marauders, and that Darkoath is taking that place, which it is its own little space, right? Because Marauders are not armed like Chaos Warriors or Knights, for that instance. So it is its own little like space in the army. So that's kind of what I'm assuming is going to happen. Personally, I would like to see some heavy arm stuff, or dive into why everyone has to be so lightly armed. Meaning, if they have a lot of mutations and weird kind, you know what I mean, like weird overgrown muscles or bones sticking out of them, something that that would logically dictate, hey, we can't cover this dude in plate, because making it would be too difficult, or he'd warp and twist underneath it, or something like that. But so far we've seen is very, we'll say, traditional humanoid. Let's see. I don't think Darkoath is really... Oh, I'm skipping stuff. I'll come back to that. 1 second. I feel like if Gutbusters were going to be sent to Legacy Greenskin Get Mob, they would have not been reboxed. Yeah, they're not going away. They're just... I think they had a change of heart on their design efforts when it came to making armies and how to split them up. That is my thought. I understand why people or have that constant feeling that like factions are going to get deleted, but things haven't been deleted in a very long time. Like, and the models that have, like, say the whoever the Forest Grots were, I can't remember what they're called, but they were ancient. Like, they were ancient. Whereas the ogre stuff, not that bad. Let's see here. Merchant Prince, I don't think Darkoath is really a thing. The Shadespire Warband doesn't even have the keyword in the War Scroll. That is true. However, they have done rewrites in the past. And that's what I mean. I don't think Darkoath is a thing. I think it is well, technically a thing. Obviously they exist, but I think it will be a sub faction of a new kind of Chaos Undivided. What I would really honestly love, if I could have anything, take just like the Beast of Chaos, the Gloomspite gets, where you combine multiple sub factions, get Ever Chosen. You can call them Darkoath as representative of barbarians, right? That's your other alternate word for barbarians. You can trademark and Slaves to Darkness, and then you have your knights and your warriors. Put them all into one book, because that way you've got teeming masses of dudes, you've got spellcasters, you got the War Shrine. That's all I want. I think that's definitely a strong way to go. Also, part of it is what we've seen for the Darkoath stuff doesn't make me feel like it's going to be a release on the same level of Moonclan Grots. And I could be wrong, and I'll probably eat crow. But, yeah, we'll see. Let's see here. Scott Long, I have several friends that were mildly interested in AOS. Recommend your vids. They now want to know how to start. What do you think? What do you think about the new skirmish rules in White Dwarf? Honestly, my right now best way to start playing that I suggest, if they seem uncomfortable with the idea of like a miniatures game mechanics in general, skirmish is fine, because you get used to using models, rolling dice, checking stats. If they have ever played anything else, and including like D&D, like, anything where they're used to rolling dice and stuff, I would honestly say start collecting box and just play really tiny games against each other is just better. Don't worry about points. Don't worry about balance. Start small, build up. The reason I say that is I just don't like skirmish right now. I want it to be so much more, but the thing is so many of those units are built upon having numbers of dudes in them, because like a lot of basic bro units are built upon that, and you'll never get to use those synergies. A game of skirmish can last as long as a normal game because it's so many individual guys, so you don't feel the epicness of it. I just tend to recommend, when I ran 2 demos this last week, I just I took a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, 20 Gore, and something else. Oh, I think you need a best of Gore. One lady brought some Stormcast stuff from Soul Wars. Another guy, I gave him my Slaves to Darkness. We all just mash pitted each other to get them used to the rules. And I was explaining along the way, like, when we're playing a real game, like a fuller game, there's different objectives, and I explain that stuff along the way. But just in terms of making sure people have fun, I don't think skirmish meets that goalpost yet. Let's see. AOS could have been AOS Kill Team, but it's cut down AOS. Yeah, it's what it is. It's a minimized version of AOS. I know that I personally want a Kill Team-esque one, where like they give you like literal boxes for Kill Team. They're like, hey, here's this squad, and also here's terrain piece or something like that. But the thing is that requires time. I think hopefully seeing the success of Kill Team has really inspired them to do that with AOS, but it takes time to repackage things. They have to do all kinds of artwork and boxing and that kind of stuff. So my thought is that we probably won't see a real skirmish version of AOS and probably until next year at least. And that's if they found it to be financially viable and worth it. As far as other stuff for getting new players into the game, someone in the chat said let them win, or at least make it fun. I don't think anytime you have a chance, let them win, but that's not always easiest to orchestrate. What I would say is make everything exaggerated. So like if she rolls like 2 6s to hit, stop what you're doing and be like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like make it a big deal. Get people excited about stuff. I've seen a lot of demos where people just like, they teach it, but they teach it like they're teaching, I don't know, freaking algebra, and they just stand there cold-faced without any emotion. It's like, that is not fun. No one gets into this kind of hobby because someone like, oh, this is a intellectually stimulating activity. You know, just no, you do it because it seems ridiculous. These models are cool looking. Give demos with painted stuff if possible, so they have the feel of the artistry of it all. And then make everything they do just feel really epic. And if they're a narrative person, frequent breaks to explain what just happened. So like, say this Skyfire shot this enlightened, be like, oh, the arrow pierces straight through his eye and he falls to the ground, right? That kind of stuff. Like, stop and like explain, we just did a rules thing, but this is what we're enacting. And so making that connection for some people, because some people don't take that naturally. They don't understand narrative wise that you can be creating a story by doing die rolls and stuff like that. So yeah, let's see. Omniphage. I love some kind of praying oath mechanic for Darkoath. Something like Fire Slayers. Pray to Khorne for +1. Yeah, where you can do that kind of stuff. I wouldn't mind. There's a lot of ways they can go. I also wouldn't mind the kind of thing that like Daughters of Cain have, where every turn like things amplify as like, you know, the chaos gods are brought forth into the battlefield and that kind of epic stuff. That'd be really cool too. Alright, we're gonna do some tabards. Here we go. Mogwai, Shadespire is not really the AOS version of Kill Team. So Kill Team is a tweaked version of 40k, whereas Shadespire is a self-contained game, and there's, even though they gave War Scrolls 2 units to be played in AOS, there is zero crossover rules-wise. Like, no rules in Shadespire matter in AOS, and the characters nominally matter. Plus, there's no artifacts, no specialties. There's no, yeah. I disagree, but I understand scale-wise. You're absolutely right. In terms of like the number of models you have on the table, you're totally right. Let's see, they have warbands. Just use the Underworld kits. They point out almost right to use them in Skirmish. That's true. If you just want to do Skirmish, that's probably not a bad way to go. It's like 25, 35 bucks, something like that. Probably pretty good. That's a solid point I hadn't thought about. Using, like sticking to Skirmish warbands, or Shadespire warbands in Skirmish. Let me think about that some more. Let's see here. What's weird is I feel like GW should have been saying that for quite a while now, but I'm just now hearing about it from you, and that's awesome. Because they do, each model does kind of have its own armament, so it would sound more skirmishy, a lack of a better word. Okay. While there's kind of a lull, I'm going to hop back over to a question here. Patrick asks, do you have anything against Middle-earth the Middle-earth game? Would like to see you cover it. If you haven't tried it, at least give it a chance. I have nothing against Lord of the Rings whatsoever. There's a distinct lack of people around me who would play with me, and I don't ever want to buy into a game system I don't play. Also, Lord of the Rings is just not my favorite, like, fictional world. Yeah, it's just not. I did not enjoy reading the books, because I think Tolkien is too wordy. In the movies, as much as I did like those, I don't know, it didn't grip me the same way. So that would be that. Let's see here. For new players, be careful how you play versus them. Gonna hop over here, ask another question. Giant Among Minis, aka Stu. First of all, love the channel. Oh, thank you. Do you have a set time for your Hangout live chats, or is it mostly random? Would love to hang out in Hobby during one time. I try, if you actually are watching this and you're curious, I try to do one of these every single Friday night to just be available. Either I'll do a while you're reforging, or just like this last week where I didn't have anything lined up and I was kind of not feeling well, just turn the camera on and paint. So every Friday night you'll find me doing something. And then sometimes I just turn it on because I can. Tolkien is too wordy. Take that, hobbits. Yeah, I didn't, you know, because here's the thing about Tolkien, right? You're going to read like 6 paragraphs about like a cup, right? Because some dwarven king gave this jackhole a cup, and Tolkien takes, you know, for the sake of world building, takes a bunch of time to tell you about it. And then you're like, okay, cool. We're past the cup part, right? We're done with the cup lore. And then he puts the cup on the table, and then Tolkien's like, you think you know tables? You don't know tables at all. And then you just launch into that, and you're like, oh my god, this story's not going anywhere. We're all gonna die. And so that is my personal thesis on Tolkien literature. Which, you know, I tell people I don't really care for Tolkien, and some folks get like, what? Like it's mandatory that every nerd likes Star Trek and Tolkien. I'm like, no. Let's see here. Hey Doug, did you see that Beast of Chaos won the AOS Masters here? Yeah, I did see that. Tomorrow morning, the first video in my new series called Making a Beast Lord, which is kind of my, it's going to be my 2019 vlog, I guess, for lack of a better term. Talking all about Beast of Chaos goes up, and I review that. I just recorded it today. Because not only did Beast of Chaos come in first at that Masters event, but also came in 4th at CanCon with a 200-person event, and so that is massive. And they are night and day different kinds of armies. So I kind of look at both of them. The Masters one is super Tzeentch stuff heavy, which is really cool. Not my thing, but it's cool. I say as I'm painting 9 friggin' Zangor stuff. But eventually I want to move into Bulgor and things like that, which the CanCon list, he did more of what like traditional beastmen back in the day were. So he has a lot of Ungor and Gore and Bulgor and Raiders and those kinds of things. So I find that one a bit more intriguing, but absolutely, yeah. So I will definitely be chatting about both of those tomorrow morning. You can always tell when I hit a really narrow part because I stopped talking just for a quick second. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Omniphage. A lot of the game is careful positioning, but feels pretty rough to get got. Yeah. Father knows best. Hey, Doug, Liver Channel, thank you. And your Beast of Chaos video inspired me to start. That's my second army. Oh, that's so awesome to hear. That's really good, because I was worried that like people were gonna hate the faction because I was playing it. But yeah, I think they're gonna be great. Once I was surprised I was able to get a Chimera online, like on eBay. I was really excited about, because so much stuff. They've just I was on Warhammer Weekly with Vince and Tom, and we were chatting about Beasts of Chaos a couple weeks ago, the first of the month, I think. And Vince had asked, like, how come we don't see it showing up a lot at events? And I said, like, I just think it's a supply issue. Like, no one can get a Chimera. It's very hard to get any kind of Dragon Ogre stuff if that's part of your list building strategy. It's insanely hard. And so, yeah, I think that has been a huge hindrance to the faction as a whole. Did you see that you received a shout out on the Honest Wargamer last week? I did not. Someone told me about it, but I couldn't find any videos. So when I hopped on to check it out, he was starting to do CanCon coverage, and I kind of got distracted. So I wasn't really looking hard for it. But that's awesome. He seems like a really cool guy. At some point, I would love to do a collaboration with Rob Symes. He always seems nice. I don't always particularly care for all of his shows. Some of his co-hosts are just not my favorite. It has nothing to do with their personalities. But I would love to have him on, because every time I hear him on something else, like he was on Garage Hammer recently, like I love that interview. It seems very engaging and affirming of people who just want to take stuff and have fun. Like, and I just like that. That's just a great attitude to have. I don't like Tzeentch as he paints Gave Spawn Zangors. Yep. It is, yeah. I said it, and as the words were leaving my mouth, the weight of my own hypocrisy just sunk in, so. But the cool thing is that instead of ordering a bunch of Bulgors, which is the ultimate goal, I'm going to borrow Marks from Rerolling Ones, because his are beautifully painted. So yeah, you'll see those at some point. Vince and Tom are great, but a bit hardcore and tournament focused. Enjoy your narrative perspective. Please keep that focus. Oh, I will. I will. You know, I've had some people question my decisions lately, because basically I've been going out and buying all the most broken stuff in this faction, because I'm losing a lot with Beast of Chaos. And losing bad, like it's just a wipeout most of the time, where I'm dead on turn 2. And so people are like, oh, I kind of like that you took kind of off the wall stuff and played factions that weren't getting played a lot, and you know, I mean, and I still am. But the army had no teeth, and so I asked around to find out, like, hey, I have all the chaff of our faction, but none of the damage dealers. What deals damage to complement what I already own, instead of, you know, what's broken, build a broken list, do that kind of stuff. What's cool though is that, like, looking at the guy who went to CanCon and came in 4th, right? Remember, 200-person event, 4th place is like super good. I would feel immensely proud of myself. It is a very flavorful Beast of Chaos list. Uses one of their battalions. Nothing's abusive. Nothing's really spammed. It's just cool, and like that's the kind of stuff that I like. Do you like / would ever use the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth model? I'm figuring out how to kit bash one because the model doesn't thrill me. I love the model. I thought he was bigger, but yeah, I like him. He do I think I would ever use him? Yeah, if you're doing like me and you're kind of toying around with all the battalions, I will tell you that he is probably best in a Tzeentch one. Simply because, like, he has 10 wounds, and so the way that the Tzeentch summoning thing works is every time your heroes take a wound but aren't killed, or they do damage without killing something, so inflict pain. So anyway, each one of these dudes is 9 summoning points if you're aggressive with them, and that's just super cool. So they work really well in that in particular. As far as, I don't know, other stuff, I'll be honest, in my list, he's the first thing I'll drop. He's in my current like 2,000 point list I'm going to test out this week. But he'll, like I said, be the first thing I drop, just because he doesn't add any real synergies to the army. I'm not bringing Dragon Ogres as battle line or anything like that. I don't know. All right. I'm sorry. It seems like you guys are going to experience some buffing. My internet's being odd again and again. Okay. Let me see here. There's some great conversions. My favorite is someone took the bottom part of a whatever the Stormcast Eternal Dragon Riders guys are, the unit of 2, and then put the Ogroid Thaumaturge body on him, and that guy looks baller. Yo, yeah, you were just typing that as I said it. Yep. Yeah, it's incredible. Let's see here. Isn't Slaanesh getting summoning points for doing damage and not killing? It is that in addition to taking damage and not dying. So it's both. So if you have a hero with a lot of wounds and they keep taking damage, you're still receiving those points. And in addition, it's doing damage without killing anything. So if you put your Dragon Ogre Shaggoth into a unit of Chaos Warriors like I did for my demo night, and he gets a good roll on his Mega Axe, which does 3 damage each, you have to remember, even though you're killing dudes, you're still doing a wound to them before they die. So every time you kill a Chaos Warrior in that sense, or a Liberator as an equivalent, you get 1 summoning point, and then as they kill your guy back, you have up to 9 because he's taking wounds without dying. It's just awesome. They're a match made in heaven. Let's see here. We can review the Tzeentch summoning mechanic. My book is right next to me. Give me 1 second. Finish the. This is the last dude up next on this particular color, and then it'll need time to dry. So we will do that because that sounds like a fun activity. Oh, did I misspeak and say Tzeentch? Yeah, I'm talking about Slaanesh. Slaanesh is one where you take damage, deal damage, and you get summoning points. I may have misspoken there. I was a little distracted because for some reason my service that is like letting me stream stuff just seems to be so awkward lately. It just kind of goes like from being fine to not, and so I get distracted. Okay. Thinking about getting some of those like range extenders for internet and connections, so like that, maybe that would help. All right. All right. Let's take a look. Blue Horse, battletome, Everchosen. Yep, it'll be by the Slaanesh section. Here we go. So let's see. Feed on Depravity. Each time a friendly Slaanesh hero inflicts a wound. Okay. So sorry about that, everyone. I'm not sure what's going on with my internet lately. Yep, it's back. Okay. Is your PS4 on? It is on. Does PS4, does that normally just drain internet? That's strange that you asked that. Okay. Yeah, let me know. There's something about the PS4 because I'll go in the other room and turn it off. The Exalted Keeper Secrets. Ah, that's a good idea. Okay. Tell you what, everyone hold out for like 30 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm going to go turn my PS4 off and see what happens. Okay. Got the PS4 off. Didn't seem to help quite yet, but we'll see. Alright, so at this point, what do I need to paint? To fix your paint problem, just take a bit of paint and paint a dot on each of your paint pots. That's a good idea. Might check that out. Let's see. Cracking open a question from an email here. I read a Beast of Chaos forum, and it seems that multiple units have similar roles. So Ungors, Gores, Enlightened, Bulgors, etc. Do you agree with this? I'm also worried that Gloomspite gets have a same problem. There's a lot of crossover. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of chaff units. Ungor and Gore both fill the same role, but Gore do it for cheaper, or Ungor do it for cheaper, which is unfortunate. But that also means you have the freedom to choose what you like the look of. That's how I'm kind of approaching it. But yeah, there is a bit of a problem with like a lot of units fulfilling the same stinking role. Joshua, what are your thoughts about the Dispossessed Easter eggs in the Gloomspite Gits release? Let's see. I think it'd be really awesome. I don't have any more thoughts about it other than the things look awesome. I would love to see more of that artwork. Like I love the really ornate stone masonry they do. But yeah. I might cut the hobby hangout here short and go reset my router and see what's going on. This is like the third time this has happened where it'll be fine and then all of a sudden it'll just start crashing on me for no reason apparently. No one's on it. No one's using it but me. Centigor are actually the biggest Gore rivals. How many things Gore do better than Centigor? There are many things that Gore do better. Well, I think the biggest rival for Gore is Ungor because they're cheaper for doing the same thing. But I would imagine that the trade-off is in speed for Centigor. The problem is that Gore don't do anything special, period. Other than have a 4-up save. That's kind of their thing. Which is nice sometimes, but not always mandatory. Alright, hopping back to a question here. From Hank Trim. How do you set goals for learning a faction to ensure you continue to improve in matched play settings? Made a commitment to myself to build an army and play Skaven for a year, primarily because I love the lore and the models. I am not sure how to keep my competitive side in check and keep myself engaged as I learn a weaker faction. Measuring progress is hard. Obviously, I think the easiest way is win-loss ratio, but that doesn't tell the whole story. I think the best thing you can do is grab or make sort of like a diary, if you will. They have that war journal that came out a while back that I bought, and I don't know where mine went, but you can just kind of record aspects of your game and leave notes for yourself, and you can watch yourself improve that way. I think that's definitely one of the better ways to go about doing it. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I tend to measure my success based off of, like, it's never in the game that I feel like I'm doing well or not. It's on the drive home when I would think, man, I forgot so many rules. If I have a drive home and think I played my best even if I lost, that is to me the ultimate progress, because that's when I can feel comfortable enough to explore new things. Yeah, for sure. Let's see, Dispossessed. Deprived someone. It could be a cool revisit if the Dispossessed were kind of like nomads. Yeah, that'd be legit. I would love that. I really love it. Jack from Real Ones was saying he doesn't like the name Dispossessed. Like, he wants it to be something else, just because it doesn't. It's kind of like having a faction called, like, Disenfranchised. You're just like, we're sad about things. So knows not what that means, but on tabletop, it doesn't sound like a warrior thing. It doesn't have the same wording as, like, the Gloomspite or the Beasts, or, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have a warrior name. Just kind of sounds like a sad state of affairs. So he's kind of advocating for a new naming convention on them, but yeah. Has anyone seen any recent Wanderer fluff in any of the new releases? I have not. Do you know of any, or are you just asking if we had seen? Because I have not. The last I heard about them, I think it was just Sylvaneth and the Beast of Chaos book that they fought. I don't know the last time they were actually mentioned. So when I do battletome reviews, I don't read them like in the order they come out. I go back in time, so I don't actually remember what's new and what's not. Grudge Bearers. Yeah, that was a name we had come up with as well. Some focusing on, it depends on if they're going to bring grudges forth into their lore, continue that. So again, we don't know. They could rewrite everything and give us something else. Dispossessed fits with Tolkien-esque dwarves. That's fair. That is totally fair. Let's see. I'd love it if they got a whole new range of, like, war machines and weapons and things like that, and then left Ironworld Arsenal, because it looks like Ironworld's kind of bleed into Free Peoples, which I'm fine with, as long as the Dispossessed get their own thing. Let's see. I think they just rename them Dwarden in a new collective battletome. Oh, like a new Gloomspite gets, but for dwarves kind of thing. That'd be interesting. I would be I mean, like, honestly, my wild speculation, I think this year they're going to redo some of the battletomes. At least that's the rumor that's going around, the older battletomes. And KO needed a rewrite before the models hit the shelves. And Fire Slayers just need to be updated. I think they're great. They just need to be kind of brought in line with the wording and stuff like that. So it'd be a great opportunity. Like, if they're going to do it, that'd be a great opportunity. No reason Iron Meld can't be available to 2 books. It's true. It's true. I more meant, like, I was thinking about how they structure it on the site. Beasts of Chaos have Zangor in both Tzeentch and Beasts of Chaos, but in the Free People one, they're shoehorned into just the Ironwell Arsenal is freehorned into Free Peoples. Sorry, I'm getting my words minced up. But yeah, you're right. There's no reason they can't. I really want Chaos Warhounds to be in whatever the new Darkoath Slaves to Darkness book is. I think the idea of training a bunch of war dogs sounds awesome. I think it'll happen this year, most likely. They just invested so much money in those molds and stuff, and the vast majority of it's just collecting dust. Because obviously we don't know the sales figures, and I hate to think that they're that. I mean, they have to be guided on some level by the game. I'm not as jaded as some people are saying, like, oh, they made this good because they needed to sell more. I don't think that's mainly the experience, but I think they do care when people buy into a faction and they can't experience anything at all what they were trying to convey. I mean, that's a design problem. I think Sylvaneth and Kharadron will get a new book this year. They're the last Night Vault factions, and every other faction Night Vault is getting release. Oh, that's a fair point. I didn't consider that. I don't know if Night Vault is the guiding principle here, but that's a cool, interesting idea. Well, KO stuck with one battle line option doesn't help. That is certainly true. But that's also part of what I mean, where they can do the battletome from scratch and reassess, hey, maybe we can make Grunstock Thunderer's battle line if, you know, that kind of thing, while they're redesigning everything else. Of course, that's something they could have done in the General's Handbook, but whatever. Let's see here. Even if it's just being able to use other Dwarven units that aren't allies would be better. That's true. KO did well in Week's Tournament. Yeah, KO did really well at CanCon. But he played a list that I liked that was very different, where he had a block of 40 Arcanaut dudes. Like, he had one big brick of dudes. And I see a lot of people make a mistake. I think people invest too heavily in the boats. And I feel like the real strength of the army is guns, and you need lots of guns. And so that was a cool list to see. He didn't do well on the stream, I don't think. He played Deepkin. But, no, I think he did win. He won on Scenario. But, yeah, it was really good. Cameron did do well in CanCon, but it was more surprise factor. Yeah, I mean, you know, here's the thing, though. To a point that there was a discussion on Warhammer Weekly that I absolutely loved, where Tom was talking about the real problem with the realm rules that tear down shooting, like the Ulgu ones that limit shooting and spell ranges and stuff like that. The real problem with that is that you're not letting the meta balance itself out, because shooting armies should be better, and that's the natural response to things like Legions of Nagash, Daughters of Cain, that are kind of sweeping the place by storm right now. I thought that was very interesting. And then Dark Horse, this KO army comes up, doesn't necessarily have those same negatives to it, and sweeps the leg of some top armies, and that's awesome. I loved seeing that. Let's see here. I recently decided to start an almost all skink keyword Seraphon army. Do you think I should pick up their battletome now, or wait to see if they get a new book? Same for the General's Handbook. I tend to say go grab the book. nothing else, it's full of really cool art, and I think you'll enjoy it. There's no rumors currently that I know of right now that are like Seraphon specifically are getting a new book. So I would do it just because it's good for the battalions. If you really don't care about any of the art or lore at all, use the app and the Azir app. Buy the stuff on the app for that all, and you'll be all set. And obviously you'll need General's Handbook because you want to be able to summon stuff. That's a key thing they do. Grabbing some paint. Here we go. Yeah, he did beat the Deepkin. That's what it was. Yep. He had 2 units of 5 evocators as well. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, he had the big shooting wall, which I feel like I've never seen a KO player invest that heavily in shooting. And yes, he did have, I think, 400 points of evocators, 2 units of 5, whatever that is. And they were good. And part of it is evocators are just too dang good. But that was an army where I was like, okay, this is clearly a Kharadron Overlords army. I don't know. I felt good about it. But I felt like that was a solid... They were there to be a shield wall while the gun lines did the work, which I feel like is the spirit of the KO army, to me anyway. Let's see here. We'll hop into another quick question on the email side of things. I have 2 left here. Ablin, I'm doing some converting in my Chaos army, and as such, use the shields from my Chaos Knights. Now the Chaos Knights are otherwise always equipped with shields, so how would you play this? Can I still use their shield rules, even if the miniature does not carry one? Yeah, I would say why not? I mean, they don't have an option to not take the shield, so it's built into their war scroll. Just do whatever. Just tell your opponent, hey, they don't have shields, but they have shields. Because it's not like a unit that has the option. Like, it's not like they have to choose between shields or hand weapons. No, they just have shields, period. There's no variation there on knights, unfortunately. Let's see, Omniphage, new universal spell opinion. What do you feel is missing from endless spells now? I love the Gloomspite ones. Oh, if I was going to add a new endless spell for everyone in the whole game? New endless spell for everyone in the game. That's rough. I think this is going to sound kind of crazy. Hear me out. There's a lot of negative to 1 hit modifiers in the game, and I don't like it. So endless spell that gives +1 to hit for every unit, friend or foe, within like 8 inches would be fun, because then you would have to balance the bonuses you give to your enemy as well as you. If you make it predatory, your opponent can move it so that it benefits them later in the game. Because then it gives you a tactical option to kind of push back on lists that focus on negative to hit modifiers. Would be my thought. That's my biggest thing, is like, for me, any spell or command ability or anything that I come up with, they're always going to be focused on making dice rolls meaningful, because there's nothing I hate more than rolling a bunch of dice and it doesn't do anything. It is an actively unfun experience. And so, like, you know, in Beast of Chaos, almost universally everything in my army hits on a 4-up. Okay, well, if Neferata's there and she does her -1 to hit thing, functionally my army doesn't do a whole lot. You know, it barely does enough when I'm fine. But, you know, having some way of saying, like, hey, here's how we can counteract some of the modifiers, that'd be kind of fun. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Negates negative modifiers. That's right. So something like that. That would be my opinion. You know, the Cogs does great things for speedy armies. The Cogs also, people don't ever use it that way, but it does great stuff for spellcasters because it gives you an extra spell if you slow down time rather than speed it up. Yeah. How would you deal with the Dwarden and their lack of magic? How would I deal? It is currently one of their biggest weaknesses, but using magic isn't very dwarfy. Their inability to dispel seems like a huge negative. Depends on what you're talking about dwarves, because Dwarden as a whole have the Rune Lord who can dispel and is quite good at it. If you're talking about KO or Fire Slayers, that's different. I think the move away from runes, like magical runes they had in fantasy battles, was a big loss for their battle tomes, and also just design space. I liked that stuff where you got magical effects, but they weren't in the same vein as magic. Like everything is just rules in the end, but they could kind of fill that void, but do it in a very unique and different way. And I feel like they never really placed that with anything. They just don't have magic. So that's what I would like to see. Come back to runes. Have the Rune Lord being able to shut things down and other stuff to give them magic-like abilities, but not actually magic and that kind of stuff. Like you give this guy a rune and he buffs his weapons, that kind of stuff. They can't dispel active endless spells, if I recall correctly. They can try to when it's cast, but if it's on the board, they can't stop it. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, I understand now. Yes, you are correct. They cannot, because they can't give up an unbind attempt or a casting attempt to be able to do that. You are correct in that. I think the malign importance items that we got, there are ones that allow you to do those kinds of things. I don't know. Part of that is I think they needed to wait and see how endless spells would be played before they could nerf it too hard. Yeah, I played Spirited Dirthu with Griff Feather Charm. It was awful. It was eventually going to die, but it took so long. -2 to everything. Yep, I hate that kind of stuff. I hate it with a passion. And people have asked me before, like, hey, what's an army you hate playing against the most, or you hate watching played, or all those negative things. And what I always tell people is Legions of Nagash, and they go, oh, like because it's so competitive and you can't beat them. It's like no. It's just Legions of Nagash army that focuses heavily on skeletal hordes. It's hard to dislodge, and I don't feel like it actively does things, as opposed to one of my favorite armies that I would love to play one day is Legions of Nagash with a focus on zombies, because then you're constantly pulling models off the table and you're adding dudes back as their horde gets bigger because you're eating people and infecting them. It just, at no point, you can still lose to that army, but you'll feel like you're actively engaged because you're making your opponent at least take models off the board. Like, that's fun stuff. But the 40-man skeleton that just farts on an objective and just doesn't die, it's a different experience. Try facing Neferata with her stacked command ability. I have done that. Mark, Shoe at rerolling ones. He loves Neffy, and that command ability is amazing in the worst possible way. Luckily, I was playing Fire Slayers at the time, and by sheer weight of dice, between axes being chucked at her, and then also in melee, because they get both ranged and melee attacks, you're able to bring her down. But yeah, Neferata is brutal. She's actually probably one of the worst defenders of that ability, because she can stack it so hard. She can just have a turn where she's like, I just choose not to take damage this turn. I played shed loads of skeletons leading to gas, and it just wasn't fun. Less amounts of dice. Yep. That's the thing. Like, there's a part of game design that has to do specifically with keeping people engaged, giving people a reason to care about events that are happening, so no one kind of zones out and stops caring. And I think there are many ways in Legions of Nagash to do fun and exciting and engaging lists. I think that is not one of them. And I think, frankly, that's why it does so well at events. It's designed to do that. It's designed to give your opponent a no game as much as possible. But yeah. That is my hot take from a guy who's never been to a GT or anything like that. I'm just looking at it, and I played against it a few times, and I actually at one point I did, well, it was before Legion of Nagash came out. I did own a Death Army many moons ago, and immediately I was like, even back then, like, skeleton hordes just aren't that engaging. Zombies it is. It's what my Grots will have to. It's why my Grots will have to be 1 block of 60 and 2 squads of 20. I need to fill battle line, but I'm going to invest most of my points into trolls and squigs. Yeah, dude. That's awesome. And that block of 20 is going to do wonders for you. And the reason I say that is because I believe, like I said, I haven't gone through in detail the effects of the Loon Shrine, but you get to bring models back and stuff like that, so that would be incredible. See here, but I support your emphasis on is it Trogots? Is that what you're doing? Trolls and squigs. Yep. Now, are you interested in doing what kind of squigs are you interested in? Because to me, I really love the squig herd, with their ability to like kick and thrash and do mortal wounds when they run away, because I like the idea of having a unit that you know going in you never have to spend points on for battle shock, the command points for battle shock, I mean. And that sounds really nice when I have to plan all of my battle shock command points with Beast of Chaos. That sounds like a nice trade. Let's see here. Part of the reason I am not super tempted by Gloomspite Gits is because I painted 60 Moonclan Grots for a Firestorm campaign we were going to do with Ruling Ones, but we decided to nix that in the bud. But after painting 60 of them, I stepped back and I was like, man, I painted a single unit of Grots. I gotta do like more of these. And like, no, I couldn't do that. So after that experience, which I'm really glad I had, I was like, no, I'm not tempted by this army. I like Spiderfang. That's probably the closest thing I'll get. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did. I think I have a sum total of 90 orcs for my 40k army before I gave them away. But yeah, it's harsh paying that many dudes, especially if you're an idiot like me and you give away armies all the time or trade armies away. Sir Marquis Gain, hello. I think I have one more question here I can ask from the history here. Phil. Okay, here's his question. To preface this, I have to say that I'm on a budget, so I have a plan to make my purchases. So I have to plan my purchases. Okay. There are 2 stores in my area that sell GW products, one of which closed their game area. The one without a game area sells stuff at a discount, while the store with a play area does not. I've been really hankering to play a few games, but I've been unable to bring myself to go to either store to play, as I don't want to be one of those guys who doesn't support the store he plays at. Any insight in the situation? Well, you know, at a certain point, Phil, you gotta do it. It helps you sleep at night. And I mean that sincerely. That's not a brushing off your question. If it bothers you that you're not supporting the store that you're at, gaming at, then you should buy there. And I mean that sincerely. It bothers me that I don't buy stuff at Let's Play Cafe in Monroe, Washington. The reason for that is they're really bad about ordering things. They're not a good place to like place orders and get them in a timely manner from. They're kind of a mom and pop shop. So I don't game there a ton anymore. I go to Mox Sporting House where I do buy stuff in person. That's where these lovely beauties all came from. And so, you know, you got to do what you can. You know, I mean, if it's really about money, save it up. Save it up and buy and support the people you play at, because you're taking their rent, or you're using up their space, and they need to get that back to pay rent. That's what I'm saying. And that would be my answer to you. Also, that place that has a discount might just be trying to get rid of the stuff because that they don't want to support it with games, meaning they might never support with gameplay, and that would be a bummer. All right, what do we got next? We should paint something. Let's do Meridius Blue. I hope that you enjoyed Death of Hope. Death of Hope. Death of Hope. What is that? That sounds familiar and I can't think of what it is. You enjoyed Death of Hope. Also, you have me building a Nurgle army. Tamarkhan will be in my collection this March. Oh, dude, absolutely. That was a fun one. That was actually a patron who sent me that book. He lives over... Oh my gosh, I can't remember what country he lives in. I think it's like Finland? Swiss? Switzerland? I'm not quite sure. Death of Hope. Hope you enjoyed Death of Hope. Okay. No, I'm not familiar with it, but I'll check it out. Let's see here. Series that I am Mark Sparks working on. Oh, cool. I will check it out. I need to do vids so I keep grind painting like you are. It helps. It helps to just chat with people. I usually do it either like this live, or I hop on a group chat with Jack from Rolling Ones, and we just kind of paint together. Sometimes we play Warhammer Total War, and so whenever it's the other person's turn, because you can do like a multiplayer thing in that setup, whenever it's like Jack's turn, I'll be painting, and then we'll swap. I'll go fight a big battle, he'll be painting, alternate that way. I do find, however, that I don't get nearly as much done when we do that. Kills my efficiency. Also, if you do that, you just kind of hear Warhammer Fantasy Battle characters yell the same thing over and over and over again. It'll drive you insane. Scott Long, do you have a channel or anything like that? I feel like I don't actually know anyone's real names in the YouTubers and junk. Okay. Mr. Kane. Also respect to the lore series you put into. Listen to them at work while I'm painting armies. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you enjoy it. It is always a blast to do. Time intensive, but a lot of fun. Now it's interesting. People, when they meet me in person, think that I know everything. But between me, you, and the other 33 people in this chat right now, once I do a lore video, it immediately falls out of my skull. I don't remember any of the stuff. I've rewatched my own videos to understand something before. Because I'm actually not good at knowing things. I'm good at presenting things. Is kind of what I try to have be my strength. So that's good. I'm glad you enjoy them. Okay. So what I'm doing now is going over with Meridius Blue, which is kind of the equivalent of whatever the Thousand Suns paints they have for Thousand Suns over at 40k. I was going to buy those, but I was like, well, I have this. It's the exact same color, and P3 paints are nice because they're a little bit thinner, I have found on the whole. There's an Age of Sigmar comic I'm working on with DC Comics. Armist for Black Library submissions. You're saying there's a competition? Armand Blue, thank you. Are you saying there's a competition to see if you can be a artist for that? Just want to make sure I understand. But that sounds cool. Comics aren't my main way of devouring information, but it sounds cool. It's on the community page. Oh. Hold up. Forgot I actually hadn't been on the community page today. Let's take a look. Genes to their cults, made to order, orcs and goblins. Cool. Okay. Maybe I'm just missing it. Anyway. In my trade, I say the thing. I can organize and present well. It's just not, yeah. It's not a recall thing. I'm not an encyclopedia of the mortal realms. We want to hear you think. 2+, I knew Age of Sigmar, but thank you for your lore videos. What novel would you recommend to start Age of Sigmar lore with? Let me ask you this, Breck. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say the first name there. What faction are you interested in? I can point you in a better direction if I knew that. On the whole, I really like City of Secrets because it's kind of this self-contained story that is really engaging. It's a good kind of primer to the world. Soul Wars is really good for like catching up on the series of events that's going on right now. But if you have a specific faction that you're interested in, I can probably point you in a better direction. There's this GW Black Library due for the future Iron Combat. Gav Thorpe told me to enter last year, so I'm working currently. Cool. Let's see here. Cold Shoulder Had to Walk to Work. The reason I asked earlier about the General's Handbook thing was because there should be a 2019 edition out later this year, and I'm not sure if I should hold out till then. Oh, you mean about Seraphon? I assume that's what you were asking. I think that was you who asked about it earlier. The stream went down for just a quick second, so I'd be sure. Yeah, that wouldn't be out until July is typically when they release those annually. So, I mean, it just depends. Are you cool with not getting allegiance abilities and that kind of stuff for a couple more months? I wouldn't be. I'd rather be gaming. So, that is up to you. But just to you know, that does tend to come out around July. So you'll be able to plan that out. Let's see here. Breck, Stormcast and Nurgle. Well, if you like Stormcast, you are in luck, my friend, because there's a plethora of books about them. What I would say for Stormcast is Soul Wars is a fantastic book, and I cannot recommend that enough for you. It has to do with the nature of what Stormcasts are, how the gods see them as pawns, gives them a lot of depth and character. There's some really cool stuff in there. Soul Wars is definitely my suggestion for you. As for Nurgle, Nurgle books. Plague Garden is really good. There's a lot of cool characterization there. And Nagash Undying King, the main enemy of that story, is a Nurgle warband, and they are super cool. They're like very like they're almost ordered after like a knightly order, so they're all about honor and combat and being the best servants, and oh, it's super cool. So those are my two: Nagash Undying King and Soul Wars, which are both It's really funny. They're both incidentally about death, but one is death versus Nurgle, one's Stormcast versus death. Yeah, Nagash the Night King has a herald who rides on a throne made of dead dryads, or are they dead, or are they just like alive and screaming but woven into each other, and he turns it into like basically a wagon. Another word for that. Gabriel Huddlestone. Hey Doug, what's your favorite AOS novel? City of Secrets. City of Secrets because it features humans, which I like because they're very relatable. And it's kind of this really cool little action story where I just kind of kept turning the page and I was like, what next? I don't know. I liked it. It was just very intriguing. Wasn't a lot of downtime. Yeah, and it was good. It was one of the first times we felt like we were really in a particular place. You know, a lot of the AOS locations and geography were very abstract in the beginning when the game came out, but that felt like I really knew where I was. Made the places seem important and real. Let's see here. Orange Everqueen and Plague Garden. Absolutely. Yeah, there's some great stuff there. Heard Plague Garden is good. Cold Shoulder. Well, I got to build and paint a massive amount of skinks, so I'll have some time between them. That's up to you. 100%. Just a matter of if you want to wait till July till you get a new book. Happy to help with any suggestions. Unfortunately, I never did City of Secrets as an audiobook. I listened to Silver Shard, which was awesome, though. Yeah, as Scott pointed out, I am a Josh Reynolds, who is an author for Black Library. I'm a fanboy of his. And the reason I say that is because his strength to me as an author is dialogue. Having meaningful conversations that seem like characters would actually say them. Like, you can get conversation that's very expository. I mean, that they tell you what's going on, but it sounds very clunky, like machines are talking. But to get two characters chatting with each other in a very natural way, there's this part in Soul Wars, and I won't spoil anything because I know we have new people who haven't listened to it yet. But there's a moment where Nagash is talking about the nature of gods to a Stormcast, and it just is such a natural back and forth. It just really captures both of them. One as like a very devout Sigmar follower, being the Stormcast, and someone who sees from an entirely different perspective this back and forth they have. It just fit both of them, and you walk away with a very deep appreciation for both characters and the factions, and you understand why they're doing what they do. And the thing is, with enough explanation, there tends to not be enough. There's not really that same like he's a bad guy because he's a bad guy. No real reason. He just twisty mustache is evil for the sake of evil. And you realize, like, no, Nagash has reasons why he might be wrong. Doesn't mean he's right. You know what I mean? But he's not just a villain for the sake of being a villain, and it makes characters deep and interesting. I think also something he does greater than some of the other Black Library authors, and I won't name them because I like them all kind of, but he trusts the audience's intelligence enough, and I don't think enough movies and books do it, where they don't trust us enough to like understand the implications of things. Where like Josh Reynolds will have that, and like it leaves you, doesn't expressly say this is the nature of, you know, mortals and gods, and this is how you should think about things, but just has the conversation, steps away from it, and lets us consider it. And like at the end of the book, we can draw our own conclusions, and that's awesome. That's the best kind of science fiction fantasy, and I mean that. If you look at other books like Brave New World or 1984, like they trust the audience to think for themselves and think about this world they created. Would you want to live there? No, it's terrible. Everything's terrible. Let's see. Think they need to continue with the great work they did in Realm Slayer in regards to future audiobooks. I have not actually listened to it. It's on my to-do list. I don't care for audiobooks too much, mainly because like I get very distracted with the audio stuff, but I need to because it seems like a very important book. (1984), that book was deep, on point. Yeah, it's a timeless one. It is timeless. I think Brave New World is a much more horrific future that we are probably realistically heading towards. Okay. But other Josh Reynolds books, let's see. Other audio books. I'm trying to think of audio stuff. I don't know. I can handle audio books. Audio dramas is where they lose me. It's the clashing of the swords and that kind of stuff that I can't focus. Okay. And let's see, I think clear out of questions. I am. Cool. Thank you all for helping me clear out my backlog of wire reforging questions. There's always stuff that I want to ask. And a lot of times I try to do it when I have a guest on. The problem is, like, they're never, I shouldn't say never. Generally, they're not geared in a way that's, like, guest friendly. If they're asking me a particular question. So, yeah, I gotta be careful about that. I'll have to check out the Brave New World novel. What is your favorite 40k novel? Fly the Eisenstein. Well, it's technically a Horus Heresy novel. Okay, 40k novel. The Space Wolves Omnibus. They're old. They're super crazy. They're out there, but it was actually one of the sets of books that got me into Games Workshop stuff. It was just this cool mix of sci-fi and fantasy, which is what fundamentally 40k is. It's sci-fi fantasy. But, yeah. Went a little too thin on this teal here, this second round of it. But, yeah, it was good. Following, I think it was Ragnar Blackmane, I think is his name. Fly the Einstein, I think, is the best because it was this kind of like non-stop action roller coaster thing. Again, there weren't as many deep conversations in that one. I will give you that one. Like in terms of, I think Josh Reynolds could have done that better. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty darn good book. I really liked. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Fulgrim as well. When we get to see the Emperor's children fall to chaos. And I think that one was really important for me because it put Slaanesh in a new light where it wasn't just about sex, it was about perfection in all its forms. And that was a very interesting and eye-opening thing where it made me kind of upset that the model line doesn't reflect how cool Slaanesh can be based on how their Black Library authors are writing about the character. But, yeah. Hero. The Space Wolf novel kept me in the hobby along with Sons of Dorn. Oh, that's cool. Yep. I don't read too many. Well, I don't feel like I read enough. Never feel like I read enough. My thing is that since I got into the new army, I've been just diving into battletomes a lot, like trying to get stats right and memorize rules. So I haven't actually read just for myself in a while. I need to do that. Read a Black Library novel, but yeah, I've enjoyed them. What is 40k? That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see how authors tackle such different topics. You know what I mean? Like, there are topics that cross over between AOS and 40k. When I say topics, I mean like ideas of, you know, is radical faith a good thing between like the church, you know, that makes up 40k, or, you know, Sigmar's warriors. Like, those are both the same theme across different fictions. I like the crossover sometimes, but I think the AOS, the fantasy nature of it all, gives you more breathing room to do ridiculous stuff. Yeah, I think that's cool. Okay. Well, friends, it is 8 o'clock here. Stream started working, so maybe I'll try to turn off the PlayStation next time at the start. That seemed to help it out. And I'm probably going to hop off for the evening, get some dinner. It's 8 o'clock, dinner time. But thank you so much for joining me. What did I get done? I have 9 Skyfire. Oh, I have 6 Skyfires and 3 Enlighten on disc. Got my leader guy. Most stuff is base coat. I got to base coat the weapons, and the metal, I think, is next. And kind of go from there. So when these are done, I will have 10 more Bestigor to paint, and then my 2,000 point list is complete. So I can start cracking some face with that, and I'm very excited about it. Also, I forgot to mention, there was a buy one, get one free sale at the store, local store. So I grabbed myself these super fancy malign portent dice, and so you will be seeing those pretty stinking soon, because they are nice. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. Oh, Mike finished his Blood Rack Medusa. Nice. That is awesome. Very excited that you all are getting some painting done with me. What am I going to do? So tomorrow I have a video coming out about my Beast of Chaos army, and then from there I will figure something else out. So thank you all so much for joining me. I'll talk to you real soon.